Okay, this is going to be the answer key for the second worksheet for lesson 9.4. All right, so we're going to solve everything by factoring. On this one, it's already factored, so we're going to go ahead and just take each factor and set it equal to 0. So we're going to get a equals 7 on this one, and on this one, we're going to add the 4 over, and then divide by 3, and get a equals 4/3. And those are your two solutions. Okay, number 2, again, it's already factored for us, so we're just going to take each factor and set it equal to 0 and solve them. So on the first one here, I'm going to add 8 over and get 7v equals 8. I'm going to divide by 7 and get 8/7 as my first solution. For the second one here, I'm going to go ahead and add the 5 over to the other side. I'm going to divide by 4 and get 5/4 for my second solution. Okay, on number 3, this has got a GCF, so I'm just going to pull out an x. And I have x plus 8 left. And now I'm going to set each factor equal to 0 and solve. So x will equal 0. X plus 8 equals 0. Now this guy's already done. This guy we're going to subtract and get x equals -8. Okay, on number 4, again, pull out a GCF. So I'm going to pull a p out in this case and get p minus 7 left over. Now I'm going to set each factor equal to 0 and solve. So p equals 0 is done. And on the second guy here, I'm going to add the 7 over and get p equals 7. Okay. All right, going down to number 5. Again, it's already set equal to 0, so that's good stuff. So now I'm looking for factors of 24 that will add up to 11. So 3 and 8 kind of pop into my head there pretty quick. So I've got n plus 3 and n plus 8. And I know my signs are positive because the entire problem is positives. So now I'm going to set each part equal to 0 and solve. So I'm going to get n equals -3 and n equals -8 when I solve those. Okay, number 6. All right, so on this guy, it's not set equal to 0, so I need to go ahead and set it equal to 0. But when I do that, I have to remember to put it into standard form. So I'm going to move this k over into the middle and get k squared plus k, right, because I'm adding the k over to the other side here, minus 30 equals 0. So now I'm looking for factors of -30 that get me a 1 in the middle. So 5 and 6, and then I'm going to make the 5 a negative. So now when I multiply, I get -30, and when I add, I get the positive 1. So my factors are going to be k minus 5 and k plus 6 equal to 0. So k minus 5 equals 0, k plus 6 equals 0. So on this one, I'm going to end up with a positive 5, and on this one, I'm going to end up with a -6 when I solve. Okay, number 7, go ahead and let's set it equal to 0, so we're going to move that 2 over. So I'm going to get 9n squared plus 9n plus 2 equals 0. So again, I'm just adding that 2 here. Okay, so now I got to find factors of 9 and 2 that get me the 9 in the middle. So I need to go ahead and start my list. 1 times 9, 3 times 3, 1 times 2. Okay, so if I look at this last set right here, 3 times 2 is 6, 3 times 1 is 3. So my front numbers are going to be 3n in each factor. My back numbers are going to be 1 and 2, and since it's all positives, I know I have positives here. So now I'm going to take each factor and set it equal to 0. Okay, now on the first guy here, I'm going to subtract the 1 over and get 3n equals -1. And then I'm going to divide by 3 and get -1/3. On this guy, I'm going to subtract the 2 over and then divide by 3 and get -2/3. And those are my solutions. Okay. On number 8, I'm going to go ahead and add the 3m over to the other side here. So I get 7m squared plus 3m minus 4 equals 0. Okay, and I'm going to start my list. So I got 1 times 7, 1 times 4, and 2 times 2. All right, and okay, so first one right here off the bat, 1 times 4 is 4. 7 times 1 is 7. and then I'm going to need to make the 4 negative so that I get a positive 3 there in the middle. Okay, all right, so my front numbers are 1 and 7, so 1m and 7m. My back numbers are 1 and 4, so 1 and 4. And then since I want this 4 right here to be negative, I'm going to put the negative there. And since I want 1 times 7 to be positive, I'm going to put the positive there. So I've got m or 1m plus 1 equals 0, and 7m minus 4 equals 0. So m will equal -1. And on this guy, I'm going to add the 4 over and get 4/7. So I have -1 and a positive 4/7. Okay, going to page 2 here. All right, so this guy's a difference of squares. So again, I'm checking, can I square root? Do I have a negative and can I square root? And the answer is yes. So I end up with 2x minus 7 and 2x plus 7 equal to 0. So now I'm going to set each factor equal to 0 and solve. Okay, on the first one, I'm going to add 7 over and then divide by 2 and get 7/2. On the second one, I'm going to subtract the 7 over, divide by 2 and get -7/2. And those are my two solutions. Okay, now number 10 is not set equal to 0, so let's go ahead and set it equal to 0. I'm going to subtract the 25 over to the other side. And now I'm going to go ahead and factor because it's a difference of squares. So I've got 9a minus 5 and 9a plus 5 equal to 0. So 9a minus 5 will equal 0, and 9a plus 5 will equal 0. So I'm going to add the 5 over on this, and then I'm going to divide and get 5/9. On this one, I'm going to subtract the 5 off, and then divide and get -5/9. And those are my two solutions. Okay, so this one is one of the ones where we want to maybe check the square root and see if it's going to work first since we've got such big numbers here. So I'm going to check 10 times 10, and I'm going to check 7 times 7. So 10 times 7 is 70. 10 times 7 here is 70, which would get me a 140. So this is going to work. So I get a 10D, I have a negative in the middle because I need a -140, and then 7 and 7 on the back side equals 0. Now again, since these are the same factors, you're going to get the same answer twice. I don't care if you just write down one of them or if you write it down twice, it's up to you. I'm going to start by adding the 7 over and get 10D equals 7. Then I'm going to divide and get D equals 7/10. Okay, so again, over here you would get 7/10 as well. And those would be your answers. Okay, on number 12, there was a typo here on this one on my answer key. I think your sheet's right, but this should be a 90 right here. So we've got a 90x. So again, we're going to go ahead and set equal to 0. We get 81x squared plus 90x plus 25 equals 0, right? We're going to bring that 25 over. So now I'm looking, does 9 times 9 and 5 times 5 work since we've got such big numbers? So 9 times 5 is 45. 9 times 5 is 45. Yay, that gets me a 90. So my factors here are going to be 9x and 9x. And then I've got 5 pluses. Okay, so now I've got 9x plus 5 equals 0, and 9x plus 5 equals 0. So I'm going to get 9x equals -5, so x is going to equal -5/9. Again, you'll get the exact same answer over here since it's the same factor twice. Okay? All right, word problem time. Diver standing on a platform 24 feet above the pool. He jumps from the platform with initial velocity of 8 feet per second. How long will it take the diver to hit the water? This can be modeled by the equation 0 equals -16t plus 8t. I'm sure that's corrected on your paper. 8t plus 24. Okay, so on this one, we are going to pull a GCF. Remember, anytime we've got that negative number out front, I want you pulling a negative GCF. Now, in this case, 16, 8, and 24 all have 8s in common. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out a -8, and I'm going to get a 2t squared minus 1t or t minus 3. All right, so now finding factors, So I got 1 times 2 and 1 times 3. So 1 times 3 is 3. 2 times 1 is 2. And then to get a -1, I'm going to have a -3. Okay, so we're going to have 0 equals, keep the -8 there. All right, now your first part will be 1t and 2t. Your back part will be 1 and 3. All right, and then since we want the 3 to be negative here, when we take the 1 times 3, I'm going to put the negative here, the positive here. Now we're going to go ahead and solve. So 0 technically equals -8. You're just going to throw that guy out. You can't do anything with him because there's no 0 can't equal -8. So we're going to have 0 equals t plus 1, and then 0 equals 2t minus 3. So now on this guy, I subtract the 1 over and get -1 equals t. On this guy, I'm going to add the 3 and then divide by the 2. So I'm going to end up with 1.5 or 3/2, however you want to do it. Now, out of those two answers, this is the only guy that's going to make sense. You cannot have a negative time. So we got to throw that guy out because he doesn't make any sense to this real world problem. So it's going to be 1.5 seconds. Okay, a ball is being thrown over a platform that is 60 feet above the ground with initial velocity of 20 feet per second. How long will it take the ball to hit the ground? This can be modeled by the equation 0 equals -5t squared plus 20t plus 60, and then label your solution. Okay, so it's going to be kind of the same thing again. Pull a GCF. So in this case, I'm going to pull out a -5. So I end up with t squared minus 4t minus 12. So in reality, there's no number out front right here, right? No number here. So I'm really just looking for factors of -12 that will add up to -4. All right, so let's see. So if you start a list, I'm thinking 6 and 4. Nope. How about, that's not going to work. How about 6 and 2? So 6 and 2, and I'm going to make the 6 negative so that that will add up to my -4 here in the middle. Okay, so I've got 0 equals, keep the -5 up front, t minus 6, and t plus 2. Now, when I set these equal to 0 and solve, we're going to throw out the -5 because that doesn't work. So 0 equals t minus 6, and 0 equals t plus 2. So t will equal +6, and t will equal -2. So now if I'm looking at the two of those, only one of these is going to make sense. It's got to be the positive guy. And we're still talking seconds here. So it'll be 6 seconds. This guy we're going to throw out because you can't have a negative time. And that concludes the answer key.